Have we taken a minute just to recognize the history we're living tonight? I mean, we are truly living something that is going to be read about for a very, very long time. Come on in, Steve. We're sitting here witnessing, I think, a miracle. Is something that most Americans have never seen before. Most Americans have not lived through a candidate being persecuted like Donald Trump has been, and then shot and called Hitler for 6 years, and then wins an election. I mean, and a total shift of the ground.
He was exiled too, right? I mean, you were not allowed to hear him talk. That we were going to get rid of him on social media. It will be as if he didn't exist, and that that was a big part of the last few years for people. Trump had to work his way back into the news cycle because he used to dominate it through Twitter alone, and that's what we've seen come back in the last few months. He dominates the news cycle, the McDonald's, the garbage truck. He all of a sudden was back in the saddle again, and now we see this potential win. But I really hate the fact that they're robbing people right now. Right? They're trying to rob him of a victory speech. They're trying to rob us of declaring victory. And, I have all kinds of things I would love to say, right, to various people, but we can't, that they're doing this on purpose.
Yeah, they did this to Joe Biden. Remember when he was supposed to speak? It was his big night. They waited until what, 12:30?
One of the positive trends moving forward, though, we mentioned North Carolina by 77 points. Wisconsin, 70% voted that only citizens could vote. Looks like a statewide referendum in Nevada that says you have to have photo ID to vote. Looks like that's going to pass statewide. So the structural responses and checks and balances. So, call people like me and I got myself defunded, the channel defunded. I've been censored so many times since that election night 4 years ago. Well, I'll say this. When they put it to the people are saying we are going to put in place the kinds of policies that'll make it so nothing that questionable will ever happen again. And I go to the interview that Rogan had with John Fetterman a couple days ago.
Oh, my gosh. Was that?
Where he got Fetterman to admit what would be the possible reason to have people without photo ID vote unless you were trying to let illegal aliens vote.
Right.
And Fetterman admitted there would really be no other reason to do it other than that.
That was Joe Rogan. That broadcast with both Trump and then Fetterman, was quite amazing. Imagine what it would have been like if she would have been on. She would not have been able. Fetterman, even in his condition, is better than she would have been. Stu.
Update, pretty interesting, coming from Pennsylvania. As we've been talking about for a while, it looks like Trump's looking very good there. The New York Times has been calling this, lean Democrat for most of the night, even though it looked pretty good for Donald Trump. They have just converted it to very likely Trump.
Bring him in here.
Very likely Trump. If that whole, I have not seen them all night and in most election cycles ever reverse a very likely.
What state was that you said?
That was Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Pennsylvania, that's the ballgame, right? That's it. If he gets Pennsylvania, he'd be up, according to the New York Times count, let's see, what is it, 19? So he'd be at 266 technically, but he'd still have Arizona where he seems to be leading. He just need to pick up one more state. So it wouldn't be the exact ball game, but Pennsylvania is really the one that needed to fall. You still have the other two blue wall states where he's leading. You got Arizona where he's leading. You have Nevada, which is at least a toss-up state for him. Lots of paths to victory.
You have Michigan 46-52, Donald Trump. Now it's 62% reporting.
What I'm more interested, honestly, excited about is Wisconsin.
Yeah,
87% vote in now, and he's up by 4 points. Now
that's remarkable.
Yeah, it looks. I'm eyeballing it. You guys all watch this stuff too, but it looks to me that he's going to sweep those three states.
Yes,
and if he does that. and he gets Arizona as well. I mean, he's already won the presidency at this point, but you're starting to look at a situation where it's pretty likely that he wins maybe all 7 swing states, maybe 6 of the 7. I don't know that he goes beyond that. I mean, look, if you look at that next level of states, doesn't look like he's going to get Minnesota, doesn't look like he's going to get Maine, doesn't look like he's going to get New Hampshire, and none of that matters. It's just a matter of whether you want that sort of margin. And of course, then there's the popular vote that you could talk about. But these are all fringe things. None of this matters. Right? He gets Pennsylvania, and pretty much that's the ball game. And Donald Trump's your next president of the United States. We're not there yet to call it, but it is.
We're there.
Very good.
I really believe we are there. Whether they are looking to stop things tonight so they could find some votes in the middle of the night, or the more charitable is they are just denying him this victory speech tonight, trying to get everybody into night zone, so nobody ever sees that. So it's not another iconic moment. There's a couple of other things. Penalties now in California getting stricter on crimes, repeated retail theft. Remember, this is all George Soros stuff, which he was clobbered tonight, wasn't he?
Overall?
Yeah, the DA, yeah. Yep. But this is all George Soros stuff. It's all, again, a rejection of everything, really, that Kamala Harris stands for. Repeated theft offenses involving fentanyl, Proposition 36, which steers away from more progressive policies. That one in California. In Amarillo, which is in the Texas Panhandle, rejected a proposal that would have made it illegal to use local roads to get an out-of-state abortion. That's crazy. But it is Texas rejecting that, which I think is good. We have Harmeet Dhillon on with us now. Harmeet, I'm sorry to keep you up. We are, and it's probably our PTSD from 2020. We are so close in Pennsylvania and even Wisconsin, and everything seems to have stopped. Are you concerned about this at all? I know you're not there. You've been watching over Arizona, but what are your thoughts on this?
Well, look, for one thing, here in Arizona, I can tell you I'm not being kept up by you guys. It's a pleasure to be here. We're actually still working because there is a phase of the election where you're, at the end of the day, closing down each of the voting locations, and there's tabulation and there are witnesses here. So we're actually witnessing the closing down and taking down numbers of how many vote-by-mail ballots were received today in person, how many people voted in person, how many people checked in, how many people actually voted. So that's being done. So there's a lot of math that goes into all of that. And each state has different procedures, but in some states they don't do voting in 3 shifts, and they don't do the counting overnight and tabulation overnight. In some states they do. So what's really most important is that things are frozen in place, and when they say they're not counting anymore, they're not counting anymore, and there's some eyes and ears on it when they are counting. And there was a total lack of trust on that in 2020 because states were simply violating the law and making up these new COVID procedures and then doing whatever they wanted, lying to people about it. This time around, there's been a lot of litigation about these procedures. It's like it's boring stuff, but it's really important. And so I think we are in a better place. But yeah, I think a lot of voters are never going to be satisfied that it's going to be fair. They're going to view every truck coming into a city as potentially dumping off ballots because of how Democrat cities and Democrat-run states ran the elections in 2020. So that's a trust issue we're going to have to overcome by having fair counting and having everybody accept the outcome of this election, which it looks like, according to the New York Times, Donald Trump has effectively won at this point.
Pennsylvania, he is 3 points ahead with 90% counted. It looks like all of the blue areas, the heavy blue areas, have been counted. We're just getting a little skittish, and I wanted you to talk us down from the tree because I think the GOP has, maybe the first time in my lifetime, I'm impressed with the GOP.
Fox has just called Pennsylvania for Trump.
Fox did.
Yep, I was just saying that.
Let me explain this to you because I'm sitting in a room before I came here with a number of Republican data experts and election experts. It has been mathematically impossible for Kamala Harris to have won Pennsylvania for half an hour or an hour now. It's just impossible. They just didn't want to call it because it's like you don't want to say the patient is dead. The patient is dead. And I think nobody wanted to make that call, but now they have.
So, yeah. So when you're looking at these other states, 4 points with 87%, Trump leads in Wisconsin by 4 points. Is the patient dead?
I think it's the same phenomenon. I mean, if anybody's been watching MSNBC tonight, I have, just to get a little bit of a tickle up my leg. I mean, it's been thrilling to see their absolute horror and equivocating over the results of this election. We're ahead in Arizona. I think that's going to be a significant, not a close. I don't think there's going to be a runoff here, or a recount rather, in Arizona either. And so they're in denial. I mean, the national news media went so hard, tried to sell us just 2 days ago that he was going to lose Iowa. My God, the level of gaslighting that we, the American voters, have been suffering under. And suddenly, it's the Potemkin village. Suddenly, we see behind the facade, and there's nothing there. Or the Wizard of Oz. Pick your analogy. There's nothing there. And so I think there's a lot of grieving and coping and gnashing of teeth in the national news media.
Good. That makes me feel better. Harmeet, thank you again for joining us. Thank you for everything you and the GOP are doing on this. Let's go to Jill, who is in Florida at Trump headquarters. What's happening there, Jill?
Well, they just called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump, and the room erupted just because everybody has been waiting for this moment all night long, and they finally got that. The one that has been out there, like you guys have been saying, we could call this one. We see the numbers, and it finally happened. Everybody got so excited here in the room, and now we're just really waiting for that final moment of the night that everybody really has been anticipating for quite some time, is Donald Trump taking the stage. So everybody has been just, I think, relieved now at this point, and the excitement is overflowing right now, Glenn.
It shows here I'm on Apple News, and it's showing that they're calling Wisconsin. You guys have that? They're calling Wisconsin, I guess.
Calling Wisconsin?
No. Sorry. It's not part of that. Nope. Sorry. I read it the wrong way. So their results is 247 to 214, but that it does not include Pennsylvania. How many? If they're at 247,
Glenn.
How many in
Glenn?
Yeah.
I'd just like to mention Decision Desk HQ is calling for Alaska for Trump. So Decision Desk HQ has Donald Trump at 270 electoral votes.
Yep, that gets you to 270.
Trump leads Wisconsin by 126,000 votes with 88% reporting. Again, I ask, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
He's leading in Wisconsin. He's leading in Michigan. Fox just called, and also Decision Desk called in Pennsylvania for Trump. I agree with Steve. What are we doing here?
As long as it is morning, you know what I mean, with a U.
Quite literally, morning in America.
It's morning in America. I think if it is morning, if they are just like, we can't call it, but we got to call it. I can understand. I can be compassionate enough to say I understand that. It's ridiculous. Grow up. But I can understand that as long as it's not, getting hinky.
Right. Shenanigans.
As long as they're not trying to steal it.
I can add one little tidbit here for you from Ryan James Gordesky, who said deep blue states that have moved from 2020 to 2024. New York moved from D plus 23 to D plus 12. New Jersey, D plus 16 to D plus 4. Massachusetts, D plus 33 to D plus 26. Rhode Island, plus 23 to plus 13. Connecticut, plus 20 to plus 8, Vermont plus 36 to plus 32, Maryland plus 33 to plus 22, and then Delaware plus 19 to plus 14. So these are the trends that are happening everywhere.
That's the Madison Square Garden rally, and that's why he's going to win the popular vote.
Yeah,
that's a double-edged sword. What she just cited right there. Yep.
Yeah. What were you saying, Daniel?
No, I was just saying, so what we're seeing with the House is a double-edged sword. I got a little bit of a handle on it. It looks like Republicans are either lost or are likely to lose 6 seats, but will probably flip 3 in their own right and maybe a 4th if they win in Alaska, which I think they might. That would put them right at 218. Then they have to defend 2 in Arizona. We'll see what happens. And then they have to defend 5 in California. So it basically boils down to the California rhinos that will take about a week to know.
Well, Glenn,
I hate this.
One other side point on this, if I could.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things, and one of the reasons why I think you're seeing some gains are this is a different election, right? Like, this is not the COVID rules. COVID rules dramatically benefited Democrats. Sending ballots to people who are at home and never would have come out to vote, never would have gone through the trouble, but just like filled it out and sent it back in since it arrived in their inbox. The fact that some of those rules went away, as they should, by the way, you should actually want to take an affirmative action to go vote. It should mean something that you actually care enough to do it. But these numbers are moving, I think, partially because some of those rules were reversed. Some red states did a good job with that. The Democrats tried to lock in as many of those as they could. Apparently, they didn't succeed with enough.
So, Stu, what are you waiting on to be able to call some of these states?
I mean, I'm ready. I don't know if we're ready with the graphics yet, but I think Pennsylvania, I'm pretty much convinced. I'm interested to see a couple of these other states, because while Pennsylvania is the big ticket, it's the one we've been talking about for an endless amount of time. We just talked to Harmeet, who was in Arizona. They still need Arizona if they don't get Alaska. Alaska has been called by some people. Looks like that's going to be enough. I think they're going to get these other states. I don't think we're in an issue, a period here where there'd be a lot of worry. Though, again, you have a lot of people who do get concerned whenever the final total doesn't go across the border of 270. What's interesting, too, is the approach from Fox here, Glenn. Fox, if you remember in 2020, called Arizona early. I mean, their audience hated that, and they got pissed off at them. The final total, of course, wound up being Arizona winning. They, of course, don't care. It was just like an emotional moment. I think the same thing is happening with these liberal networks right now. They don't want to be the state. They don't want to call Pennsylvania. They don't want to call this thing to be over because their audience will punish them. Fox has the opposite incentive at this point. They want to call it on the early side.
This is from X, from Fox. Fox decision desk now can project former Trump will win Pennsylvania. Most important victory for Trump so far. He is now 3 electoral votes away from winning the presidency.
Alaska's so weird, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes a while for them to call it, though it would be shocking in this environment that he would lose Alaska. Alaska was one of those sort of stretch swing states for Democrats. Thought there might be, they may very well get another Democratic House member out of that. You've seen Democrats win, their occasional weird state to poll. It takes a lot of time for the results to come in. But at the end of the day, you got to believe in this environment, Trump's going to win Alaska. That'll get him to 270, even if he can't pull off Arizona.
Right, and it is. That's also. What do they call the voting that they were voting on in Idaho and everything? The ranked voting.
Ranked choice.
Yeah, ranked choice. That's the only thing that makes Alaska, I think, hard to call is the ranked choice. That's what gives you, horrible results. But what is it, like 2 p.m. in Alaska? This is calling it pretty quickly.
It is always 2:00 in the afternoon in Alaska. Yes,
yeah, right.
By the way, on the House, we were talking about that a little bit. One interesting breakdown here is on competitive districts. There are the Democrats need to win 43 of them. They've won 12. They have 31 left. Republicans need to win 27 of these districts. They've won 8. They would need to win 19 more. So, the House is just going to be tough to call. My thought was actually Democrats were going to win the House by a small margin earlier today. who knows? I mean, I think this is going to take, as Daniel was talking about, these California districts are going to be pouring in with votes for weeks. We will maybe not even know for a couple of weeks in the House. Obviously, that would be huge, because if you can get all three, you can actually pass, at the very least, something with only at least that one bill each time with 50 votes. So you're talking about maybe a tax cut. That's what Donald Trump used it for in his first term. But there's some possibilities there. And, of course, as we mentioned, the Supreme Court, all you need is that Senate. And it looks for sure that they're going to get that. With a potential of as many as 55 votes, that's still in play, which is kind of incredible.
I have that pulled up.
I will say one of the things about that, too, Glenn, we talked about this in 2022 going into that race, the possibility of maybe a red wave happening. And we over and over made the case that if Republicans can just if they can do well this time and get to 54 or maybe even 55 seats, which was totally in play in 2022, they would have had a chance for a filibuster-proof majority coming into this election. We must have talked about it 50 times leading up to that election. They, of course, didn't get that done in 2022. They did seemingly have a shot at it here. This would have been an incredible opportunity to, with a filibuster-proof majority, to do so much good for the country. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's going to play out quite that way, but there's going to still be a lot of opportunities to improve things here for Republicans.
Another popular vote update. Trump is still leading Harris by 5 million votes, 4 percentage points between them. Trump is, obviously has grown leaps and bounds since 2020. In Nevada, Donald Trump, I'm, by the way, hearing stage 2. In Nevada, Donald Trump leads Kamala by 3.5 percentage points, holding 51% of the vote to Harris 47.5. The difference of about 35,000 votes. I mean, this election is over.
I
agree.
Yeah, I'm not going to celebrate until.
No, I know, but
yes, I do think you're right, and I also think, one of the things you can do to avoid an outcome like this, if you're Democrats, is not be absolutely terrible for 4 straight years. That is one thing you can do if you want to make sure this type of result doesn't hit you next time. Don't do everything that hurts the country continually for 4 consecutive years and then run the stupid vice president of that horrible failure of a regime. That's an option. I know you threw out the actual guy who's president, even though he's still president, but you threw him out on the ticket. Maybe try not to be constantly terrible. Just a suggestion.
Amen. All right, let me go to stage 2. You guys have an update?
Yeah, Glenn, while I know it was noted that most of the results were in that Mark Cuban was predicted an aging lesbian, it has been 100% confirmed. But on top of that, Mark Cuban did actually post on X, "Congrats, real Donald Trump. You won fair and square. Congrats to Elon Musk as well. Godspeed." And so you'll note, "You won fair and square" stick out pretty boldly there from Mark Cuban, who just 5 minutes ago was telling us that all women who supported Trump or surrounded Trump were, weak and stupid.
Yeah. The Elon Musk tweet that just was published, "You are the media now." And it's true. They have committed Harry on themselves. They've eviscerated themselves.
Which is why I like the idea of stepping over the dead carcass while the body is still twitching.
Yeah, I agree.
And claiming victory. That's why I like the idea.
Why are we waiting?
The symbol that it sends of just bypassing them altogether and confirming their irrelevance.
Yep.
And I understand, Trump's from an era where he's 78 years old and he can remember a day and time when Americans got together over TV dinners and got the news from Walter Cronkite and he told them what to think, right? And so for his generation, they are legacy brands. And I can understand wanting the satisfaction of having them call your name and claim the victory. But looking forward to the future, every opportunity here to say this era is over. They are not the gatekeepers anymore. And I would fully take advantage of it.
And they made it this way. They decided to make this an existential crisis.
Correct.
They decided never to speak truth to power, never get out in front of power, and be the lackeys they are. So they chose this, and this is now time for Donald Trump to finally finish it.
I also think I had a little birdie text me who's in California.
You have a lot of little birdies.
I do.
Do you have any humans?
It helps to live and work and do this for 15 years in the First of the Nation caucus state. Lots of birdies fly in. Yeah. But a guy knows California really well, says he thinks we'll split those California seats, go 2 and 2. So I think the conversation we had hours ago, guys, about the importance of Trump right away, putting the full weight of his brand on the scale about who the Senate Majority Leader will be. If you're not going to have control of the House, I think that's even, if it's possible, I think that's even more important now. You absolutely have to have somebody who is ideologically aligned with you as the Senate Majority Leader, period, but especially if you're dealing with a 1 or 2 seat majority one way or the other in the House.
I know that Donald Trump has made extensive plans, and they're not the Heritage Foundation plans that everybody accused him of. But I know that he has made extensive plans, and he's going to be moving quickly.
Good.
He's going to be moving
because
quickly.
John Cornyn's probably been organizing the voice vote for his ascendancy.
Anointing.
Yeah, for probably about 5 or 6 hours now, would be my guess. All right. So you got to get some people that are going to be like, I'm not going to, like what Chip Roy did, which pissed Trump off at the time. But you got to get like what Chip Roy did on, what was it? What was the name of the act with all the COVID bailouts and everything else? Or maybe it was Thomas Massey that did that, made him actually take the vote. All right. You need to make sure there are senators and the like that are like, yeah, I don't think we're going to be doing this tomorrow or Thursday or Friday. We're going to let this process play itself out.
I mean, I really think with Donald Trump coming in with this kind of a win, and the Senate, having 55 seats, 55 seats, I think that sends a message too to those old style Republicans. Your days are over. Your days are over.
No, this is the equivalent of just grabbing the puppy by the scruff of the neck. I mean, they're recalcitrant. They haven't wanted to move, but this is a beatdown. I mean, this is a message sent very loudly by the American people, and there's no way around that. Again, the wonderful thing about it is there's no way around this. You can't ignore it. There's no narrative to counter it. It's just reality sitting right there in the face, which is why they don't want to come out and acknowledge it right now. Yeah. And hopefully Donald Trump will.
Yeah, he will. He's going to be taking the stage. We, of course, will be there for it.